when you have something like this happen, it just makes you infinitely more powerful. I really do believe that there is no such thing as bad publicity these days. So I think it started on Twitter on a stream or something that he sent out a spoiler and people got mad about it. And then people continued to get mad about it for like a really long time. And then there was this like escalation. I guess that's like the way that I would describe this between him and like the community. Where like it started on his subreddit and he had this like take where he said like basically spoiler, it's kind of like dumb that people like overreacting about spoilers. And it kept going, they kept escalating it, and like they being like Reddit and all that. They were continuously escalating it. And then he decided to escalate it. Was Destiny started DMing people that were the ones that were like posting these long threads, DMing people spoilers about Game of Thrones and Endgame. He got a bunch of spoilers about Game of Thrones from people, and he was DMing them the future episodes, ones that aren't out yet. And then I think finally that, of course, escalated even more, and it got to the point where he was posting it on threads. He was posting it publicly on threads until I guess that kept going until he got banned from the subreddit because he wouldn't stop. And that's where we are now. Holy. So that's what happened. Now, I guess I have like 4 or 5 thoughts about this. Starting with, before I want to talk about spoiler culture, I want to talk about people, and I want to talk about this escalation problem, and then I want to talk about the responsibility of a content creator. It won't take as long as you think. And I want to start with like, for people that are making a lot of money and have a lot going on and are really busy, it's hard to imagine that there are some people that don't have much going on in their lives. So some people, I think the highlight of their week is like sitting down, watching Game of Thrones, seeing Endgame, or it's like a really big part of their life. It's a bigger part of your life than you might think, because if you are a huge Marvel fan and you've been watching the Marvel Universe for like 11 years, and that's something that you really dig, and you're super excited for Endgame, you have no way to actually see Endgame unless until like Thursday at midnight when you're going to go see it. And I'm speaking almost from myself, where it's like, I'm a busy guy and I got a lot to do. I have a lot to do. I mean, I work at Aslid, but I really cared about Endgame. And it was a pretty big hit to me that Endgame got spoiled for me. The biggest point in Endgame got spoiled for me by Twitch chatters. Even a day before that, I went to go see the movie at the earliest opportunity I could, but it still got spoiled for me. Just people posted it in chat, without me being able to handle it. So kind of comes with the territory. I understand it, but it was unfortunate, right? Like I in particular have like a harder problem avoiding this than like other people. Like I can stay off social media, and then literally the only way that I avoid it is to not do my job. So that's kind of different from other people. What I'm trying to say is it matters to people, because sometimes you work like a crappy job and you don't really have much going on in your life, and like going to go see Endgame or watching like Game of Thrones, that's like the whole thing. But with the way that content creation has gone, there is like a spoiler culture that has evolved. It's so weird. It's like everything that has to be made now, even if it's like, I was watching this Netflix series, this like mini series called Black Summer. It's a zombie series. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not that good. But the end of every episode has to be this catchy, oh, what's next type of thing. Oh, we're going to see who dies. Like, oh, we're going to see, right? That's like the whole, the current like meta of content is this sort of like capturing you for like the next thing type of thing, right? Like it's like which character is going to die, what bad thing is going to happen, wait and see on the next episode. And as a result of that, it's created this, and this is in movies too, right? Like the Infinity War, the Infinity War leaving on half of the population dying just left everybody wondering like what was going to happen. You knew Endgame was going to be huge because we had to see how this story ends. It's preying upon this like kind of classic like story arc thing that I've talked about in other streams and videos to sort of like maximize like the human interest in it. And as a result, there's this like spoiler culture that's evolved, which is like there are these people who I think have committed themselves to Lucifer and are dedicated for some unholy reason to going out into the internet and just telling people what happens with these spoilers. And then there's a lot of people that are trying to protect themselves from this. And if you're on any sort of social media, it's becoming increasingly harder and harder to do. And then there's no solution to this. I don't have a solution to this at all. I don't know what to do about this. Like it seems to me that it's inconsolable. Content has to be this way. People are going to spoil it. So I don't know. You just go see content as early as possible and then stay off social media till then. Seems to be the solution. So let's assume that like the people that are like posting these like really, really hateful messages to Destiny and stuff, like not now, because I'm going to get to that, but like later, these guys, they probably don't have that much going for them, you know? Like they're probably like pretty upset that this happened because this is like a big part of their life. And so we got this like issue of like the escalation problem, which is like the only thing I still don't understand about Steven's take is like, well, because they went on me, I went even harder. And this seems to be like an arms race sort of nuclear type scenario where it's like, if we conducted politics in this way, we would have nuclear wars, right? Where it's like, okay, Russia commits a small offense against the United States. And then the United States responds in turn by creating a bigger offense. And then Russia responds in turn by like bombing an island or something that we control. And then the U.S. responds by bombing Russian mainland. And then Russia responds by bombing it even better. And then the U.S. responds by throwing you see what I mean? Like nobody wins in these scenarios. Like this escalation thing is like somebody has to stop. And that leads me to, I think, the most important point that I want to say, which is the responsibility of a content creator. The problem is that in these escalation scenarios, it is never the community that is going to stop it. It just isn't. The community will never stop. As a content creator, you have to have a responsibility of greater good, I feel like. At least I've always felt like this. For my like tiny community, I've always wanted to have a responsibility. I've always felt like I have a responsibility to bring like positivity and good. And while I might not always succeed at this, and like sometimes I like flame someone or I drop someone down or whatever, I aspire to do it. I want to be a source of positivity because I think I have that responsibility holding myself as a content creator. And if there's ever any disagreement I have with Steven, who's a great friend of mine and I support in almost everything that he does, it is this. It is that I think that as a person that has a large platform, you have a responsibility to be more like forgiving and kind and like add more positivity to the world. But it's perfectly within Steven's rights to not believe that and to not do it, right? Because Steven doesn't think that way about his community. He just streams. And maybe the reason why I'm small and he's big and probably the reason why, is because of this, right? Like he approaches this from a scenario that's like much more controversial. And he gets things like this is an incredible amount of publicity. This is like so much publicity for months and months and months. There'll be people checking out a stream from this one like debacle. It's so good, right? And like most of the content that I've had that's been really successful, or I think we go here, right, has all been these kind of controversies. So it's like people want to get the outrage thing is like really real. Like if we look at like my all-time clips, like all these are like outrage clips, right? Like the unblockable ads thing, Riot Gaming stuff. This was just like, I guess this was like in response to like the ad thing, Riot Game stuff. And then these ones I have no idea how these got so popular. But yeah, the majority of like my really successful stuff is controversial stuff, even though I don't do it that often. So like the responsibility of a content creator to like sort of de-escalate a problem once it reaches a certain point. And this is an example of what happens when that doesn't happen. So you can never, like, who in their right mind would imagine that LSF as a community, as a macro organism, is going to be like, oh yeah, you know what? Like, let's just forget about that. It's okay. Let bygones be bygones. It's over. We don't have to talk about it. It's okay. Nobody is going to do that. Nobody on Reddit is going to do that. Reddit is an outrage machine. And so the only person that can stop that is the content creator. It's the only person that can stop it. Otherwise, it goes infinitely. And so, like, we're in a situation where the people that actually stopped it were the mods. Versus, like, I don't know where this would have gone if the mods didn't actually stop it. It would have been crazy. So I think my official take on this is I feel like to some extent it's the responsibility of a content creator to de-escalate situations and add more like positivity. But I also completely defend Steven's ability to not do that. And to be, but the whole like going to war with like LSF, I think is just for his personal satisfaction. And he told me just outright, he's like, yeah, I was a huge dick when it came to that. Okay. He owns it. Where to go from now? But it's not something that I would ever do. And I think that people's anger about it is pretty justified. I just think I wish that the line was drawn at like I wish the line was drawn at like not doxing people, doxing Melina, stuff like that. That's like rough. But if you reach your hand into a hornet's nest, you also can't complain about getting stung, you know? Trupp says most of those people probably have some form of ASPD, antisocial personality disorder, which includes getting a sense of joy or pleasure at others' misfortune. Or they're just really invested in Game of Thrones, right? I think there are people that are willing to kill in the United States for getting spoiled for Game of Thrones. I actually believe that like any kind of like tribalism where you get a group of people together that like really care about a thing and are willing to defend it, it's like no different from religion. Like, I think that there were people in World of Warcraft when their Cloud Song got ninja looted that showed up to like a trailer park and with like a katana. Do you guys remember that? Like the lengths that people will go through to defend some like ideal or whatever. It's crazy. It's literally insanity. It's mass insanity. And I haven't been into Game of Thrones, and now I'm starting to think that like maybe the best way to avoid this like whole spoiler culture and like all the stress of this is just to not actually invest in this stuff. Like I just don't get on the popular train for shows like The Walking Dead and like Game of Thrones. Just don't do it, you know, just do it later. I'm starting to think that that's like probably the answer for me personally, I think. Just to like not invest in it. Because I think about the total stress in my life that came from Endgame, where I got spoiled for Endgame, and I'm actually pretty upset about that. Versus I've already know what's going to happen in Game of Thrones. Just got spoiled for me in the same way. But because I literally invested in it 2 episodes ago, I just don't care. It's like someone can come in and be like, dude, the Night King is actually a goblin. And I'll be like, okay, you know, it's like that emotional investment. Maybe it's just not worth investing in that.
My hatred was at the top. Then it was sort of going down, but it was still sort of up. And then Destiny like, dude, spoilers, be rage. And dude, hey, I was like, hey Destiny, go, hardcore, more spoilers, more targeted. Hey.
Does this streamer even say anything? Like, I feel like he just had, how long was this clip? 22 seconds. He didn't say a single thing that was actually understandable or like relevant at all. It's just like raw emotion. It's like a fan just blowing words at you. Like a metal fan. Nothing he said made any damn sense. What the fuck? Purposely grifting the subreddit is not the way to go about a disagreement. You should know that. How long this ban will last is yet to be determined. They can't keep him off for that long. He's too powerful. Dude, people that think I am 100. If there's anything I know about marketing, I swear to God. Hey, thanks for the follow, man. I actually should add a notification for on this screen for that. Let me do that now. If there's anything I know about, okay, someone else follow. It should work now. It's that no one has ever really gone, dude. When you have something like this happen, it just makes you infinitely more powerful. I really do believe that there is no such thing as bad publicity.